Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I am Josh, and we've got a great show for you today. As always, a lot of stuff going on in the world of nerdy things. Invincible, the season finale for season 3 just happened, and my God, it was good. It was real good. Now, look, I want to say right off the bat, we're not going to do spoilers. We're not going to do spoilers in this show today. At least I'm going to try not to. Maybe when we get into Q&A. I really don't think we should do spoilers. Thing just came out this morning. A lot of people have not seen it yet, but I did check out this episode and it blew my freaking mind. So I want to talk about the episode, non-spoilers, but I also want to talk about the season overall and basically just Invincible as a show, because my goodness, I think a redemption just happened. And I'm really excited for the future of the show, too, because we got some news about when the next season of Invincible is happening. And it's sooner than we expected. And that's really, really good news. So, look, I got to gush about Invincible for a while today, man. This was a truly special episode. It made me feel things. It made me feel things, guys. And so I have to gush about that and talk about why Invincible absolutely has its aura back. And I think it might be one of the most peak things happening right now in the nerdy world. It was that good. We'll get into it. We'll break it all down. We also have a really interesting story with Sadie Sink being heavily rumored. Well, I mean, it's not even rumored, frankly. The trades said she will be in Spider-Man 4. It's basically confirmed that she's in Spider-Man 4, guys. But there are questions that come with that. Mostly, is she Jean Grey or not? Well, we're going to talk about it. We talked about it a bit yesterday, of course. There have been some updates. People have given some new information, and we have new possibilities. And so I want to break that down. And, of course, I want to talk with you guys about what you think about that. What could be going on with Sadie Sink? Should it be Jean Grey? Would that be chill? Would that be too freaking crazy? We'll get into all of that with regards to Sadie Sink being in Spider-Man 4. Finally, there's a lot of information out there about Daredevil Born Again. And this creative overhaul that happened with the show might not have been as much of an overhaul as we first thought. So I actually thought it would be useful today to go over some information that is now out there about the structure of the show, how much of the old show is still remaining. And on top of that, it's kind of interesting timing because they're literally shooting season 2 right now. And there were some set leaks for some stuff that's happening with Daredevil season 2 right now. And I kind of want to have a discussion about Daredevil Born Again season 2, you know, fan expectations, Marvel Studios changes, and what we think should be going on from here. Because, of course, I think when it comes to Daredevil and Marvel Studios, it's sort of an interesting story because of the creative overhaul, because of the state of the studio and the fandom. And then basically, I think in part also because the show's not really performing that well, not to expectations. I think it's probably the most fair way to say it. So that's what we have on the agenda for today. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. And the Q&A section, which we will save for later on in this stream, that should be really cool too. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions and thoughts about these different topics and maybe some other stuff that's going on there. There's like little stories here and there, a lot of little rumblings, rumors, and things like that always happening in the nerdy world. But let's begin today's show. And man, I got to gush about Invincible, man. My God, ladies and gentlemen, by God, I must gush about Invincible. So here's the deal. If you like don't care about Invincible or you hate Invincible or whatever, you're either gonna have to check out or deal with my ass, man, because I gotta go in on this. This was fucking cinema. Okay? This was some peak entertainment. And Invincible itself is such an interesting show in its own right, but also in the way that fans have responded to it and the history that it has had. Classically, season 2, they fumbled. I mean, they made some serious mistakes in season 2. I think the structure and story of season 2 was not as good as season 1. I also think the animation took a hit. I also think the big weird break that they put in the middle of that season really hurt the show. And of course, it was 2.5 years after the original show came out. So a lot of L's. Okay? Invincible held a lot of L's in season 2. And there was a lot of questions going into season 3 as to whether or not this show would be able to recover, get its aura back, find a lot of its fan base again, and get back to winning. Because that first season really was something special. Okay. So I sat down this morning and I watched the finale of season 3. This is the Conquest episode. And, frankly, for leaks and rumors and stuff like that, we sort of knew Conquest was coming for a long, long time. There were a lot of signs. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, of course, voicing Conquest. Great choice. And this was set up in last week's episode where you have the Invincible War, and it ends on a cliffhanger as Conquest shows up. Just like in the comic books, after Invincible War, things are really bad. You think they can't get any worse. And guess what? They definitely can. Because Invincible has to face down with the most powerful Viltrumite. I mean, I guess second most powerful. Thrag is technically the most powerful. But one of the most powerful Viltrumites that there is in Conquest. This is an iconic thing from the comics. Super big deal. The buildup was cool. I sat down, and I would say I had high expectations. But I don't know that I really, truly thought that the show would get back to form with some of the most iconic, crazy moments from season 1. I think between the first episode of season 1 and the last episode of season 1, there were you had this feeling, at least I did. I had this feeling like I was witnessing something truly peak, and it was electric. Like it felt electric, and I was on the edge of my seat, and I love that feeling. I think in some ways that's why nerds in general get into things. That's why we like being nerdy. We get a taste of something like this. I don't know what it was for you. I'd love to know. What was your gateway drug to juicy, awesome, nerdy shit? Was it Goku going Super Saiyan on Namek? All sorts of crazy moments and stuff that have happened from our favorite shows from the past, right? You get that hit, and it just feels so fucking peak, dude. And you're just completely absorbed into the story and into the moment. And that's, for me, that's really why I continue to be into all of these things. It's I'm chasing that high again and again and again. I'm chasing that feeling. And I didn't expect that feeling. I expected a good episode, really cool action, animation, etc. My God, this was one of the coolest episodes of television, one of the coolest nerdy things that I've sat down to witness that I've ever fucking seen. I didn't even know if it would hit the highs of the show from the past, and I feel like it exceeded that, and it's literally one of the coolest episodes of anything nerdy that I have seen maybe ever. And so I just wanted to say, dude, if you're on the fence, if you were an Invincible fan, but maybe have checked out, if you've never considered Invincible, and maybe after some of the stuff that happened in season 2, you felt I didn't check it out, and look, it's falling off or whatever. I just want to say, with my fucking chest, this is incredible, and I highly recommend that you check this out. I do think you need to watch the whole show, because the build-up and a lot of the character stuff that they cook, perhaps in some of the slow burn parts of the series, pay off in really big, important moments. And I want to talk more about that too, because, dude, there's just a lesson here. I think a lesson for Marvel, a lesson for a lot of other, Invincible's doing some stuff that other entertainment is not, and it's worth discussing that, right? But holy shit, the highest recommendation I can possibly give, I am giving that shit. Please go watch Invincible. And my God, it is literally worth it just to build up to this episode with Conquest. This was some fucking incredible stuff. So, why is it so good? Without getting into spoilers, why is it so good? Well, number one, it has brutal action that is actually animated really, really well. Now, this was kind of a concern. This is part of the reason why I went into this episode not necessarily having the highest possible expectations, because the animation is still a weaker point of Invincible overall. And we can talk about that more in a little bit too, because I still think they need to adjust this moving forward. But, the copium within the fandom, guys, was that this episode and the Invincible War episode would look way better than most of season 2, because obviously they're saving their resources. They know that's what's important, and they really put a lot of effort in. They put expenses into that, right? You've heard this before, right? Sometimes Game of Thrones did this, where the budget was saved for a big battle in a season, whether it's like the Battle of the Bastards or Hardhome or whatever, right? So you could see the logic there. I was very skeptic of that being the case. I was like, yeah, I don't know, because even Invincible War episode, to me, doesn't have great animation. It's great. It's an incredible episode of television, but the animation's still weak. But dude, I think people might have been right, because this Conquest episode has incredible animation. Not like throughout the whole thing. There's still a little wonkiness here and there, whatever. But to me, this was the most cohesive and energetic feeling episode all season. There's a fluidity to certain sequences and the blood and the gore that's just so fucking beautiful and immersive. Oh man, it's really good. It's really good, chat. It's really fucking good, okay? So, wow. That was great. And the brutality, man, there is really something to be said. Like, for me, I think Invincible does this a little bit better than even The Boys. It's a different strokes for different folks sort of situation. But when it comes to gore and violence, I feel like The Boys uses it a little bit like Deadpool uses jokes. It's shotgunned all over the place. It's just kind of constant, and it loses some of its oomph. And a lot of it just feels kind of grotesque, and, they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. But in Invincible, this violence and the absolute fucking brutality of Conquest is just so poignantly felt. It's so useful, and it doesn't feel gimmicky. It feels like a truly earned moment where the stakes are amplified to like 1,000 because of how brutally fucking violent this situation is. And it just works really well. So I would say, like, why is this such a peak episode? The brutality, the violence, and credit where credit is due, the animation and the violence was really well handled. The second thing I have in my notes, perfect pacing. How often do you hear me say that? The truth is, I'm kind of a tough critic in some ways. Sometimes I could just accept a movie or project for what it is and just have fun with it, like Venom 3. But a lot of the time, I'm a really harsh critic of a lot of this stuff, And one thing I love is when this genre and nerdy stuff in general can basically scratch both of my itches, like the itch for super fun, cool, nerdy stuff that's like bombastic and fun, but also like really well done craftsmanship of the thing, whether it's a show, movie, animation, or whatever. Like, peak is peak, and we appreciate peak. Part of the reason why I love this week's Daredevil episode is because I think it's peak, dude. I think that writing is really good. It's maybe not flawless, but it's really good and layered and meta-contextual and just like, dude, I really liked this week's Daredevil episode too. And part of the reason I could let go of maybe the lack of action, it's a pretty slow burn episode, is because I was so immersed by what the episode was doing, how it was executing. So I really appreciate that. I got to tell you, this episode of Invincible, the finale here, was masterfully paced. Masterfully paced. The best way I could describe it is this was literally paced the way a lot of us fans of old Dragon Ball in the 90s, I think in our brains, we think Dragon Ball was paced this well, and it definitely wasn't. But we just think it was. This is like that make-believe Mandela effect nostalgia filter that we put on Dragon Ball, and we're like, oh yeah, that show was peak, like the way that it works. No, this was like actually like that. The highs and the lows of the battle itself, incredible. The stakes of the entire Earth and how the other characters were responding to it all, epic as hell. The way that the character moments and the love and connection that the actual characters have is pulled apart and used against them, brilliant. It leads to the ending of this fight sequence and what happens. Again, I don't want to go into spoilers, but like, dude, there's a couple of things that happen that are truly shocking and kind of put you in the perspective of like, oh no, like that's, how are they going to get back from that? And yet they do, and it feels right. It doesn't feel like Deus Ex Machina completely out of nowhere or whatever. Like, it actually feels like a natural continuation of several different things that have been going on in the story. It's great. It's great. Dude, it's really good, Chad. It's really fucking good, man. Oh my God, it's really good. The pacing's really good, you know? So masterful pacing on that episode. I'm going to watch this goddamn thing again. Okay? I'm going to watch this goddamn thing again. Let's see here. What else? What else do I have in here? Oh, yeah. The payoffs were so good and so emotional. So here's something I got to say. And I definitely think there's something to this that has made Invincible has the sauce, man. It has the juice. And I think if you're Marvel or if you're just somebody else out there that's like, what's going on here that has people so excited, or what's working here? Man, one of the things that Kirkman does really well, and I think you got to give a lot of credit to Kirkman and whoever this team is that is doing the adaptation for the show, because they're adding some stuff, they're changing some stuff, and ultimately it's still hitting a lot of the notes from the comic, but maybe even elevating certain parts of that story, right? It's great. But the point is, man, if you think about The Walking Dead, which is Kirkman's other massive property, The Walking Dead, despite being set in a zombie apocalypse world, is not actually about the zombies. And the heart of that story is really about the humans and how they're dealing with the collapse of the world. And it's this like really human story. It's like, it's pretty interesting, right? That was a big part of the juice of The Walking Dead. Well, that's also what's going on in Invincible. Now, I think the recipe is different with Invincible because the Viltrumite stuff and the heroic stuff is a lot more front and center than even the zombies were in Walking Dead. So it's not like a one-to-one, but the heart of the book is the characters and how they're dealing with all the crazy bombastic stuff that's going on, man. You know? And so even though sometimes this show can feel a little slow burn and feel a little weird because they're just talking about their feelings like a lot, like there's a lot of that. And sometimes it does feel like it's a little much for me. But it ultimately pays off, man. Like it really does work. And it's clear that that was a part of cooking. That's how it was cooked. You sort of live through these connections and all these things. So then when the epic crazy shit's going down and the world's falling all around us, the little moments, as that's happening in a, you know, aggressively paced episode, really pay off and add the oomph to the whole thing. And man, they really got something with this book. I mean, look, bro, there's a lot of Invincible fans out there that could hear what I'm saying right now, and they're like, yeah, dude, like obviously that's why we love it. Everybody knows this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, the show itself, I truly feel, especially in season 2, did not handle that balance super well. And, you know, on top of some other mistakes and some other things that happened, it felt like Invincible like really wasn't quite what it could be. That was like my thing with season 2, right? And the overall feeling and take of season 3 for me is like, bro, they did it. Like they actually got this thing sorted out. They got their aura back. This is crazy. Like this really impressed me. And I got to say, just the way that I think about media and all this sort of stuff and like where Invincible's going. I think the future is really bright for this show. And on that note, a couple of different things that just happened. Robert Kirkman came out and said that this next season, season 4, will drop in early 2026, man. In early 2026. So we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait the 2+ years. It's like going to be basically at the beginning of next year. That is brilliant. I think that's super hyped up. So that's really, really good. And I just think that at a time when, you know, we have a lot of conversations about Marvel and what is exactly going on with Marvel Studios. Why are the fans not responding in the ways that maybe they used to? I think Invincible is clearly on an upward trajectory after having a low point, and there's obviously lessons there for other studios that find themselves in similar situations. And man, I could gush about this episode even more, but ultimately the main thing is that this show's doing some incredible shit. It's crushing it. This finale was fantastic. I would expect this thing to I mean, it's already charting on Nielsen, right? Not like super crazy impressive numbers, but it is charting on Nielsen. I would expect that to continue. Give me 1 second. I would expect that to continue and possibly even get a lot better. Like, I think this is the kind of finale similar to what you had with The Mandalorian season 2, right? Like, this is the kind of finale that's going to make some serious waves on social media. I think the conversation around this thing is going to be pretty intense, and I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to see what the numbers could be when the Nielsen charts finally come out for this, because, like, dude, it's really good. It's really, really peak. So there you have it. My thoughts on the finale of Invincible and this season in general. I gotta figure out how to make some Invincible content, man. I gotta figure out how to make some Invincible content because this show is dope as hell, and there's a lot more cool stuff. If you know what's coming in the comic books, guys, there's some absolutely incredible shit on the way. They said they want to do at least 8 seasons of this show. That is, at the very least, probably 5 more years of Invincible content. If they nail it once per year, they could honestly do 10 seasons. There's that much stuff in the actual comic, and they're actually doing right now even more stuff. They're doing more Battle Beast stuff. Oh my God, bro. It's just like, this is really, really cool. I was really skeptical of the second season and of this season even, you know, some of the animation problems, etc., etc. But goddamn, that's some peak shit. Okay, so enough gushing about Invincible, man. That shit's really, really cool. Okay, let's get into a couple more things. Let's talk about the scoop from yesterday of Sadie Sink being in Spider-Man 4. Now, I did an emergency stream about this, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, right? So I'll TLDR it for those that maybe weren't there or that don't really know what's going on. Basically, yesterday, the Hollywood Trades came out and announced that Sadie Sink was set to co-star in Spider-Man 4. So that means it's basically confirmed. Hollywood Trades, very reliable. They did not say she was in talks. They said she was set to co-star. Crazy. So Sadie Sink is in Spider-Man 4. Now, the question is, who's she going to be? Now, the wild part about this story to me was the fact that the Hollywood Trades literally said Jean Grey. The prevailing theory is that she's going to be Jean Grey. Since when are the Hollywood Trades putting theories into their articles? And I just think it's so wild that they would say Jean Grey. Now, even though they don't mention this in their article, I think part of the reason they said that is because Jeff Snyder had previously scooped, and actually this was like a rumor scoop that he had, that Sadie Sink was being looked at for the new Jean Grey. So there was already like some rumors out there about her being Jean Grey, and they're connected to Jeff, and he's really good, right? Well, obviously, I think after this whole thing came out, we all started to think about who she could be. Jean Grey thing is planted in our brain because it's literally name dropped in the article, and there are those rumors. Last night, Jeff put out a newsletter, and he clarified some things about it. I got to be honest with you, it doesn't really give us a full-ass idea of what is happening here. I have my own thoughts on what he brought up yesterday. But he also tweeted that sometimes good shit happens after he publishes, and I think he's going to talk about on the Hot Mic podcast tonight a little bit more about this with John Roca. So I'm going to try to catch that. At the very least, I'll be checking to see what breaks from that show tonight. So I think we'll get more clarity on that tonight, just so you know, and we will talk more about that tomorrow, of course. However, let's go over what Jeff did say yesterday. This is actually a pretty good article here on comicbookmovie.com. We got our first piece of major casting news for Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios' untitled Spider-Man movie yesterday, with Stranger Things alum Sadie Sink set to join Tom Holland for his fourth solo outing as the wall-crawling hero. Deadline's report mentioned that the prevailing theory is that she will be Jean Grey, but the site added that she could appear as another beloved red-headed Spider-Man character. Jeff Snyder, who first reported on the rumor that Sink could be in line to play Jean in the upcoming X-Men reboot, has now shared some updates, and it sounds like the powerful mutant might be off the table. I actually don't think she's off the table, but it is kind of interesting what Jeff said. So let's get into it. In his newsletter, Snyder points out that Sony's arrangement with Marvel requires that the latter, Marvel, has to provide each Spider-Man movie with a major MCU character. Jean Grey would certainly qualify, but adding her to Spider-Man 4 could require Sony to give Lauren Schuler Donner a producing credit and a fee, which Sony would be unlikely to agree to. Donner wasn't mentioned in Deadline's story alongside producers Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal. It was assumed that the redheaded character mentioned would be Mary Jane Watson, but Zendaya already playing MJ, they could always make Sink a Watson multiverse variant. Snyder believes that Firestar and Black Cat are also distinct possibilities. Sure, Sink could dye her hair in any number of souls, but we just don't see it. Sink's natural hair color is something that sets her apart from many other actors. So if there's a guess, we'd guess that her hair would have to be red. That's fair. Some pretty wild rumors regarding the film have been doing the rounds. That's also true. Toby and Andrew, of course, Venom, Ghost Rider, Black Cat, Daredevil, Punisher, Mephisto, Kingpin, and Knoll. Those have all been actual rumors connected to this movie. What the fuck is this movie, right? There hasn't been any talk of the X-Men being involved, but if Sink really is playing Jean Grey, it would obviously have major implications in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward, most pertinently Avengers Secret Wars in 2027. Okay, we'll finish off with this quote here. This was from Holland in a recent interview. We have the best in the business working towards whatever the story might be, but until we've cracked it, we have a legacy to protect. The third movie is so special in so many ways that we need to make sure we do the right thing. Okay, quite interesting. Now, let me kind of explain. I'll put it into really simple terms. Like, what the hell was Jeff even talking about there, right? Well, what he's saying is two things. Number one, Sony's contract says you need a big MCU character in each one of these Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So it's like, okay, you want to make Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. We have the Spider-Man license. No big deal. You can do it, but we need a big MCU star every single time. And those stars were Tony Stark, right? Nick Fury, and they did Mephisto, but he wasn't really established yet. And then it was Doctor Strange in the third movie, right? So with that pattern in mind, Jeff is just saying that the Sadie Sink as Jean Grey thing would fit that bill. By the way, I don't even know if that's true. I don't even think that's true, to be honest with you, and I'll explain why in a second. The other thing that Jeff says is that in order to use Jean Grey, Sony would have to give a producing credit to Laura Schuler Donner. Now, that I also don't think that's true either, by the way. Jeff, hey, maybe I'm way off base here, but I'll explain what I mean, and it's actually in good faith. I don't think these things are actually true. And here's why. So let's talk about Laura Schuler Donner, X-Men, and all of that. I think what Jeff is referring to is a contract between that production house in Laura Schuler Donner and her situation with the Fox X-Men characters and maybe Marvel in general as well. But really, I think this is a focus of the Fox versions of the characters. Over the past couple of years, there's obviously not been a lot of usage of the mutant characters. That's been obvious. Now, Marvel has said that that's because they had a 5-year plan. They wanted to do that, execute on it, and then do X-Men. But we also know that's not exactly true. And the rumors are, and some people have actually reported, that there are actually some really weird, sticky contract points that are on the table. So if any of the Fox X-Men or anything that resembles what Fox did with the X-Men is included, I do think Jeff is correct that Laura Schuler Donner would need to be credited. But if it's a new version of Jean, I don't think that applies, actually. And there could actually be a lot more to this because, I mean, I do think there's something weird going on with like Disney, Marvel, and contracts and writers. And like, I think, you know, without going down that rabbit hole, there's been a lot of stories recently of rough edges, let's say, in that whole pecking order or whatnot, right? But I have absolutely heard that there are some contracts still on the table that would mean that if Feige were to use some of these Fox X-Men characters, certain things would have to happen. I've heard some wild shit. Like certain producers would have to be involved, like maybe Simon Kinberg would have to be involved. So there's a lot of like weird, tricky business stuff there, right? But I don't know that this is 100% true, but my feeling is, based on what I've heard, if it's completely new, if it's a completely new version of the character, I don't think they have to give producer credit for Laura Schuler Donner. Here's the other thing that's weird about that. Feige started with Laura Schuler Donner. Feige loves Laura Schuler Donner. Feige would absolutely want and have zero problem with her having a producer credit on the movie. And I don't really see why Sony would have a problem with it. Like, is there beef there that I don't understand? Is it just like a studio beef thing? And then as I started to think more and more about this exact issue, I started to get fucking pissed, dude. Because here's the thing, man. Fuck that. Make it happen. When Spider-Man was brought into the MCU, it blew our minds because by all rights, it shouldn't have happened. The studios just figured it out. So I'm so sick of this stupid, like, oh, well, technically this person would need a credit over here and these buttholes over here don't want to play ball. So it's all, no, fuck all of you. Figure that shit out. X-Men should be able to be in Spider-Man 4. What the fuck are we doing here? Did we not, Disney, did you not buy the assets from Fox for what? $81 billion? You have the catalog. So what did you do that for if you can't use the X-Men? Like, come on, man. You figure it out. Okay. So that's like my first kind of thing is like, I don't think Jeff is technically correct on that. He could be, and that would suck. But also, if that's something that's standing in the way, that's such a stupid thing to stand in the way of something awesome happening. Okay. Now, the other thing, right? They need an MCU character. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna throw this out there. This is just a prediction. Don't hold me to this. I'm not scooping this. I'm just putting this out here as a prediction. I think the more Spider-Man 4 is changing, the more likely it is that Doctor Doom is basically the villain. And I kind of think Doctor Doom is in the movie and is in the movie in an antagonist role. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that's so fucking obviously what they have to do. Like, it kind of feels obvious that would be what they had to do, right? So what I'm saying is, I think Spider-Man 4 is going to get a ton of MCU characters, and I actually think Robert Downey Jr. in that film probably fulfills whatever requirement Sony has, contractually, but also their wildest dreams as far as what cameo type character they could have. There's literally nothing better than that. There's no other character. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, dude, that's the one. So I think that Downey being in the movie, which, by the way, the very first Production Weekly leak for this thing said Downey was in the film. My Time to Shine, hello, it said Downey's in the film. RDJ Doom's in the film. So we don't know, but if we're listening to like the scoopers and the rumor mill, Downey's in the movie. And I kind of get a sense, and just from some of the stuff I've read, because, I read a lot of what these people write, particularly like Alex Perez, The Cosmic Circus. I don't always report on every single thing that they reveal, but I like to get a sense of where they're at with these certain rumors. I'm kind of getting a sense from some stuff that Alex has recently published that the movie has kind of done a full circle of ideas, and it's now kind of back to a more basic, kind of thing. So yeah, that's how that goes. Now let's talk about like the X-Men Jean thing. I said this yesterday. The reason I think Jean works, and we really do not know. Again, I think Jeff's going to spill the beans tonight, actually. I think he will give us some context tonight, and I'm excited for it. I hope we get some cool... I think it's Jean. I still think it's Jean. I'm willing to accept that it might not be Jean. There's actually several cool characters that it could be. But I think it's Jean, okay? Now, let me just say real quick, why do I think it's Jean and why would this work? If it's a Battleworld movie, right? That is to say, it's potentially a film that takes place in that aesthetic, that Secret Wars, Game of Thrones, high fantasy aesthetic. In fact, let me show you something kind of wild here. I had this thought, and I wonder if any of you think that this could be the case. So I'm about to show you, this is a leaked set photo from the Odyssey. That's Tom Holland, and that's Christopher Nolan, and they're on a big old Greek boat. And this is a set photo for the Odyssey. That's the kind of costume. Now, here's what's fucking wild about this. This might be the exact aesthetic of Secret Wars. You might like this. This could just as easily, if Christopher Nolan wasn't in this picture, this could just as easily be a shot of Spider-Man 4 if it's a Battleworld movie with that aesthetic. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, wow, I wonder if that's like synergy. Did they do that on purpose? Like, is this, because this could be really cool if we see like the Odyssey, and then they're like, oh, you want to see the Odyssey with Spider-Man? Like, that's next or whatever. That would be kind of wild, right? But the point is, if it's this aesthetic, if it's on Battleworld, all bets are off. And this version of Jean Grey could be from any version of the multiverse that they could come up with. And she's just is Jean Grey on Battleworld. And maybe they want to establish her that way. And maybe because she is a telepath, she's able to realize some stuff about Peter. Potentially the fact that he remembers the old version of the universe. Potentially the spell, right? That everybody forgets Peter. There's a lot of rumors that that's a part of his arc in these next couple of films. Well, Jean Grey is a great person for the audience to like get into that, because she could like see his memories. She could potentially undo the spell with her powers if she's, going crazy using Cerebro or Phoenix powers, right? So I actually think there's a lot of ways it could be cool, and it could be Jean. Battleworld basically is like all bets are off. Anything could happen. I say fuck it, go for it. It could be Jean. Now, I did want to bring this up. This is a pretty good article here from Charles Murphy. So I want to bring this up because he said there's 3 different non-MJ and non-Jean Grey characters that could work here, okay? And they're all redheads. So first is Firestar. Now, as far as I understand it, this is who Rob thinks it is. Rob from Comics Explained. I believe he thinks that it's her. So check this out. Insider Jeff Snyder late 2024 reported that Sync was leading the pack of actresses for the role of Jean Grey. Seemed to carry a lot of weight with the current conversation around Sync's Spider-Man 4 role. On the one hand, we've heard on more than one occasion that the studio wants to introduce its own variant of mutant heroes in the MCU before the MCU film hits in 2027. So Grey makes a lot of sense for Sync. That's kind of my argument. That's why I believe she will be Jean. On the other hand, another redheaded mutant has a much richer history with the Web Slinger. When the rights issues blocked the use of Johnny Storm in 1981 for NBC's animated Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Firestar was created to be the fire to Bobby Drake's ice. In 1985, the character was written into the mainstream Marvel Comics continuity, where she has been an X-Men, a New Warrior, and an Avenger. As much as folks site want to write the character off as a random Z-lister, she is a random Z-lister. There's no way she isn't. Shut up, bro. Remember, a whole generation of kids, that includes director Destin Daniel Cretton, grew up on believing Firestar was pretty amazing. And in some ways, it might be easier for a non-major member of the X-Men to be introduced on a native Earth 616 than Jean Grey to appear. I'm not going to, say Firestar sucks, but, come on, man. Come on. Okay, next one. This one's better. Hope Summers. If one host of the Phoenix is possible, why not another? Raised in the future by Cable, Hope Summers, the mutant messiah, is as powerful an Omega-level mutant as has ever existed, and one of the most important X-Men characters created this century. She can steal power. She's real cool. Hope was never even close to fully utilized by Fox, only having briefly appeared in Deadpool 2, and Marvel could tap into the role of the mutant savior by throwing her into the mix as the multiverse likely collapses and is remade. Spidey has long been a mutant ally, so it wouldn't be out of the place for him to work with Hope to solve whatever is going on in the events of Avengers Doomsday. Totally agree. That could be cool. Now, I said this yesterday. People brought this up yesterday. I think she's a little deep cut. I think you go with Jean Grey and then you do Hope in 4 or 5 years or something. I think that's what you do. But I mean, potentially, yeah, you could jump to Hope. I think she's just a little too deep cut, but maybe. Rachel Summers, also too deep cut, but very cool. Check this out. Of all the possibilities here, I actually like this one the best. Rachel Summers stands out among potential choices because of her identity as a multiversal anomaly. Across all timelines, there is only one Rachel Summers. Though not Omega level like her mother, Jean Grey, Rachel is a powerful telepath who has demonstrated the ability to control time and travel to other realities. While it may not be a bit of a stretch, it's important to remember the actions have consequences. Monica Rambeau found herself stuck in whatever reality she ended up during the third act of the Marvels. A response is due. With the multiverse in jeopardy, it's possible an older Rachel Summers, could work. So I actually think it could be one of these. Out of these three, I do think Firestar is the most likely. I think it's the most lame choice, but I could see the arguments. I understand what he's saying, and there's nostalgia there. And maybe that could be cool. I mean, if you're a big Spider-Man fan and you love Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and you get the chance to do a Spider-Man movie, of course, you're going to want to do, your favorite shit, the thing you really liked. So, fair play. But I don't know, man. I think these are all... I don't think any of this stuff passes the smell test. But I will also say this. Marvel Studios themselves, they do have a habit, and I saw My Time to Shine talking about this yesterday, and I thought she was totally on point with it. Every time something like this happens, guys, all of the nerds and all of the insiders, the content creators, everybody, we all make way cooler versions of this. We all come up with way cooler ideas and better things and better casting choices. And the studio does seem to get us really excited about a casting choice. And then it ends up being lame. So that could very well be happening again. And it's ooh. But we'll see. We'll see. So that's all I have for you on this for now. I think we'll get some updates tonight. I still feel strongly that she is Jean Grey. I still feel strongly that she is Jean Grey. Okay, one last story, then we're going to get into Q&A. I think this is a good one. Pretty wild. Now, right now, Daredevil Born Again is out there on Disney Plus. I'm enjoying the show. I think it's pretty freaking good. But the numbers are not great right now, and there's a lot of questions about why and what is happening. Well, in the middle of all of this, I wanted to bring this up because the creative overhaul, we've talked about this a lot with regards to the show, and I've consistently said this is a very good thing. I'm so excited that they did this. This is a great example of how the Marvel formula could still work. And yet, some new reveals about the original version of the show have left me scratching my head a little bit. So let's get into this. This is another article on comicbookmovie.com, but it's breaking down a bunch of reports from My Time to Shine. Hello. Okay, so let's get into this. Daredevil Born Again's creative overhaul has been a major talking point among fans since the news broke that Marvel Studios was going back to the drawing board in late 2023. Since then, we've learned of at least some changes, whether it's through the very public reshoots, which took place in New York last year, or in recent interview with the cast and creatives where they were promoting the show's Disney Plus premiere. My Time to Shine Hello has shared an in-depth breakdown of all of the changes made to Daredevil Born Again, and they're undeniably significant. However, as expected, those middle episodes mostly just received some tweaks, with a premiere and final 2 episodes going through the biggest alterations. Here's what she says here. Episodes 1 to 6 were mostly kept intact, but were shifted to become episodes 2 to 7 instead, the scooper explained, adding that all of Vanessa Fisk's scenes were reshot when Eniolette Zurer was asked to reprise her role and replaced Sandrine Holt. The script, however, remained unchanged. Oh my God. The new pilot added more background, covering Matt Murdock's first meeting with Heather Glenn, Wilson Fisk's mayoral run. Original plans called for the series to begin with him already in office. Touching on yesterday's episode, it was revealed that White Tiger's death scene was reshot to make it clear he was killed by a dirty cop wearing the Punisher symbol. In the original version, he was killed by a dirty cop, but the symbol wasn't visible on his clothes, and it only became clear in the following episode. The biggest shocker relates to the roles of Foggy, Nelson, and Karen Page. The former was said to be killed off screen by a dirty cop, not Bullseye. The new pilot extended and altered the lawyer's demise, bringing Bullseye back, character who wasn't in the original version of Born Again. As it happens, neither was Karen. In fact, they didn't even mention her in the original version. She never existed. The scooper concludes by revealing they also made a new episode 8 and a new episode 9, the season finale. The season finale features the return of Karen, Punisher, and Bullseye once again. A little bit of spoilers there, but let's just keep going. It's wild to think how different Daredevil Born Again originally was, and the biggest question now is what was planned for episode 8 and 9? Was Muse meant to be the show's sole big bad outside of the Kingpin? It looks that way, especially when we know a major issue with the pre-overhaul series was that Matt didn't suit up for almost the entire first season. And Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so then they talk about the reviews. Okay, so guys, that's a little wild. That's a little crazy, huh? You know, I got a lot of thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts after I saw this. Okay, my first thought is what the fuck is going on at Marvel Studios? Seriously, what is going on? How did you possibly think this was the idea? This was the way to go? How did you possibly think that you were making good decisions? Karen's not even fucking mentioned off screen by a dirty cop. Holy shit. This is just, it's kind of baffling that the show was going to be like that. And to be honest with you, even though I'm really enjoying the show, I think the worst part of it is that it is still basically that old version. It's a better version of the old version, but dude, this is still the old show. I mean, they've basically kept everything. Everything. they've altered it. They've souped it up a little bit here and there. And it seems like they're maybe going to undo some of these things and get back to business next season with more familiar cast characters, et cetera, et cetera. But like, come on, man. Like, is that really how you want to do your Daredevil show? First season, completely different, totally whack, and then return to form? That doesn't feel great. You know what I mean? So, wow. This was really shocking when I heard it. This is definitely not the extent to which I thought the creative overhaul happened. And I guess I just thought we were getting a lot more of a totally different take on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. Like, on the one hand, I feel I'm glad that they did it because this is undeniably better. That first episode totally cooks. You know, I've been enjoying what they have so far. And frankly, some of this stuff seems like it was so good that I understand why they wanted to keep it, right? Like, I thought that Lawyer Lee episode this week was great. And I'm sure there's going to be some really good episodes coming. They obviously cooked a little bit when they did it. But I guess what I am a little perturbed by is the fact that it ultimately feels like the creative overhaul was really a gimmick. It was really a marketing tactic. Do you see what I'm saying? That feels a little disingenuous. That's like, I don't know, Marvel. Like, that's a little sus, frankly. Because I don't think this thing really was overhauled. I think it was hauled. And I think a lot of the reasons that some fans are still not digging it is because it is still that old show. Do you see what I mean? Wow. I don't know. I mean, look, it's obviously very tough to run a cinematic universe, and obviously Marvel has had a lot of ups and downs, and they're doing a lot of stuff here. But, I mean, it might be time to consider some new strategies and maybe get some new fresh blood in there, because just the fact that this got greenlit and just the fact that like all of Parliament at Marvel Studios was like, hell yeah, no Karen, fuck that bitch. Like, hell yeah, Feige dead off screen. Hell yeah, he's barely in the suit. Hell yeah, we're Marvel Studios. Like, nah, like, no. Where's the person in the room that's going to kick a motherfucker in the shins? You know what I mean? Like, real talk. Like I would have been, literally, if I'm in the writer's room with you and I'm in a room full of people that are nodding their head as some executive is saying, like, we're going to not mention Karen, I'm kicking shins. Their shins are getting kicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, shins are going to get kicked. I will probably get fired. But shins are getting kicked. That's crazy. So, as we continue down this road, as we continue to enjoy all of these nerdy things, and frankly, I still really enjoy Marvel. Wow, what an interesting point to be at in the year with the show, the show's performance, and some of the stuff that's coming out about the show and the response to it. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys. I wonder if you have any questions about it, because, damn, what a wild-ass situation with Daredevil. Again, I'm still really liking the show, but obviously it's not performing the way they thought it would. So, with that being said, shall we break into Q&A, chat? Y'all got any questions? Do you want to do some chatting? Should we talk a little bit about the things going on in the nerdy world, chat? Let's do it. Let's break into Q&A. I also want to say, if you're listening on the podcast, man, it's been a great show so far. Nice and chill, going over the news, having some laughs. You know, it's been really fun. Well, now I'm about to open myself up to the chaos that is a live chat. So things might get crazy. I might get triggered. You know, the other day, Joshua, a member of the community, said, I love the Q&A part of the stream because you having to deal with stupidity and getting triggered and freaking out is really entertaining. And I said, I hate that you love it so much, but I also understand why you do, because it is probably really entertaining. And also, where are the likes today? Less than 300 likes. I am ending the stream. We're not doing Q&A today. Less than 300 likes. What the hell's going on? What am I, chopped liver? Holy shit. Okay, let's get into the Q&A. Badunka, thank you so much for the gifted, brother. Rossi, thank you for the rose. Zach says, much love, Josh, and everyone in the chat. I have to watch after work, but I am loving Invincible. Oh, man. I hope you get to watch this after you watch episode 8. Wow, what a great episode, bro. Like, I'm still hyped from it. I want to watch it again, man. It's really good. Batonga Duncan says, afternoon stream yesterday, was up early today getting solar panels installed. 2 streams in a row for me, feeling nerd rich. Oh, hell yeah. I'm glad you were able to join us yesterday and today, man. Good for you. Hope you get those solar panels installed real good. Real good. Joshua says, Invincible is like when my sausage itches. It's annoying. I tried to ignore it, but I probably have to deal with it eventually. Sadie as Jean, please. Nerd Vengers for life. What in God's name are you talking about? But yeah, Jean is Sadie is Jean. I think it would be great. Brayden says, in my opinion, Invincible proves that animation will always be the superior way to adapt comics. Wow. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm really high on the episode, obviously, and I'm really high on this season because the last couple of episodes have been so great. Like, wow, truly phenomenal. I think there are certain things that are better adapted in animation that come from comic books, but I've also loved some live action interpretations, and I think live action can do some things that maybe even animation cannot. But regardless, like, the medium is animation for now. They're thinking about doing movies. There's some stuff out there about live action Invincible movies, but for now, obviously they're doing the animated version of it, and it's pretty good so far. Like, I would have to say season 1, absolutely incredible. Season 2, let down for me, but even then, like, the lowest score I could give it would be like a 6 or a 7. So it's not like it disgraced the brand or anything. Like, it just wasn't as good and it had some problems. Season 3 is really good. 8 or 9. 8 or 9. That last episode's a 10. So they're cooking. 2 of their seasons so far have been absolutely incredible. They have 8 seasons planned. They charted this year on Nielsen. So a lot of good things. If I were the team over there, I'd be feeling really good about myself. So, yeah, but appreciate the 5 spot, brother. Tubular Tommy says, Invincible is awesome. Love this episode. My wife's boyfriend gifted me a few of his comics, and I fell in love with the character. I'm so bricked up. Well, good for you. That's cool. Your wife's boyfriend seems cool, too. Appreciate you, Tubular Tommy. Kaylin J says, I fear she might be Gwen Stacy now that MJ doesn't remember Peter. She could be his new love interest. Yeah, it could be Gwen. Could be Gwen. I actually like the logic, though, where that one article was like, she has one of the most distinct, there's like not a lot of natural redheads in Hollywood, frankly, right? So would you really hire one of the most famous redheads in Hollywood and then dye her hair? I mean, sure, you could, but that seems silly. So I think she's going to have red hair. In fact, the trade article kind of says the same. Brian Namek with a 10 spot. Hey, really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Says, regardless of rumors, do you think Tobey and Andrew will fit into the plot of Spider-Man 4? I don't see them showing up if Spider-Man 4 is on Battleworld, or will we just see them in Secret Wars? Let me tell you one rumor about Secret Wars that I think is so fucking cool that not a lot of people have talked about, but I think ties directly into your question. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and Tom Holland Spider-Man are going to be forced to fight against each other in Secret Wars. I'm going to say that again. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and Tom Holland Spider-Man will be forced to fight against each other in Secret Wars. Take that one to the bank. Who wins? Oh, it's a great conversation. That feels like a comic book shop conversation. Toby. Anyway, point is, how could that happen? Why would that happen? Battleworld is a pretty good explanation for it. So do I think that they could fit into the plot? Yeah. Do I think it'll be Battleworld? Yeah. Do I know for sure? No. Joshua says, could be Toby's daughter, but I'd just prefer her as Jean. Yeah, it could be. There's a lot of characters it could be. I still think Jean. Until I hear otherwise, I think Jean. Bean Dip Supreme says, Sadie gonna be an undercover Doom, but Mary Jane. Dude, that would be fucking wild. She's a Doom bot in her head. Like she gets, you know what would be kind of fun though? If they did the Stepford Wives kind of thing. That could be kind of wild and interesting, right? You know what else I was thinking about, chat? If this Battleworld thing is real with Spider-Man 4, remember that Destin technically already did some period piece stuff. Because remember, Wu Wen is like fighting ancient battles. Remember? He's like fighting against castles. He's like sieging Imperial. I mean, I don't even know what the exact context of those fights were, but like he was doing that. And then also, if you look at Tao Lao, they all kind of have a high fantasy vibe. Wen Wu. Yeah, sorry. Wu Wen. Wen Wu. It's basically the same thing. You know what I'm talking about. So isn't that kind of interesting? That Destin has already kind of dabbled a little bit with that aesthetic. Ooh. Let's see here. Steve McTee says, Spider-Gwen. Every movie Gwen has been a redhead. Is that true? How do the redheads feel about that? That's crazy. John Cross says, wasn't impressed with the finale. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, Mark consistently needs help from other people to fight, blah, blah, blah. John, I'm literally over it. You can feel how you feel, but I will be damned if I'm going to actually like, well, I guess I see it. No, fuck that. It's 10 out of 10. You don't think so? You're wrong. Everything's subjective. It's your opinion. Your opinion sucks. You're subjectively wrong about an objective truth. Get the fuck out of my face. Fuck that. It's incredible. Thank you very much. Kendall says with a 5 spot, Invincible was Battle of the Bastards / Red Wedding peak. Did you see the article I posted on Discord on DD? Maybe it was never as big as we thought. So I think I saw what you were posting. You're talking about the old Netflix version of the show, right? And I mean, I guess maybe. But, like, it's hard to imagine a character that had a movie, right? Had a Ben Affleck movie, had a successful Netflix show. You kind of can't deny it was successful. We don't know what the exact numbers were, but it was a successful show, right? It's just kind of hard to imagine that the explanation for the new show not doing as well is like, oh, actually, Hollywood was completely wrong about how popular Daredevil was. You know what I mean? For, like, ever. I don't know that I can, like, I mean, maybe. I don't know if that's, like, something I can actually get behind, you know? Joshua Campbell Bluegrass says, hopefully episode 8 and 9 set some fire stuff up for season 2. I think they will. 100%. Shub says, now I'm starting to think My Time to Shine was right, and we need fresh blood at Marvel Studios. I mean, look. You can't deny that they just haven't been on fire lately. And I do wonder, right? Because there have been so many, not just misses, but like almost antithetical ways of thinking. So like the Ralph Boner thing in WandaVision, like what the fuck is that? And sure, and on the one hand, maybe like the studio's on top of the world, and they feel like they've given so much to fan that they can take a shot and do something weird, subversive like that, and it's chill. But that's honestly not fucking chill, dude. And it was terrible when they first did it. It was terrible in Agatha. It's lame as shit. And you think about some of the other things, right? Like Fat Thor, bitch-ass soy boy Hulk, right? Grumpy-ass, can't look fine as fuck Captain Marvel. Like, what is that? Like, Carol Danvers is a babe. You know what I mean? So you start to, like, walk through these things. And then there are some decisions, like, I think just the idea of having Jack Kirby's very colorful cosmic Eternals be this gray tone Zack Snyder movie made by Chloe Zhao, that's a terrible idea. There's like a lot of, from my perspective, a lot of terrible ideas that have been made in the past 4 years. Now, what's interesting about that is, so Parliament, right? There's this thing called Parliament at Marvel Studios. Not a lot of people talk about it publicly, but it's basically the brain trust and the story group of Marvel Studios. Nate Moore joins that story group around Black Panther 1. Okay? And I'm not saying it's all Nate Moore's fault, but that is literally around the time that, like, shit starts falling apart. So I don't know if it's just like Nate Moore has fucking terrible ideas. I don't know if Kevin Feige started having bad ideas. I'm not exactly sure. But that group of Parliament is absolutely not doing what they used to be able to do. They actually just brought on a new person. This might have been right at the start of the year. They brought on a person that has worked in the visual department at Marvel Studios for a long, long time. They're now a part of Parliament. Yeah, I mean, I would say they do probably need to shake that up, get some fresh blood in there. It's possible there are a lot of other things going on that we don't fully understand. So there was an article that came out with the Russos. I think it was in Wired magazine. This was around the time that the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit was happening, and there was like some beef between the Russos and Disney. It really did seem like there was an issue there. And one of the things the Russos said, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they said, you're going to watch the studio become incredibly conservative, and not politically, but from a mentality of like, we don't want to rock the boat. Marvel is this brand. We want to protect it. We don't want to do anything too risky. We want to conserve what we have built. And what that means is we shut off radical ideas. We try to just keep doubling down on what worked before. So there could have been some outside pressure coming into Marvel Studios around the time of Endgame, where like essentially a conversation happened, something like, Kevin, this is one of the most valuable things in business. This is one of the most valuable assets the Walt Disney Company has. We need to preserve this. You know what I mean? Like something like that. And then what does that look like? I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, they need freshness. I mean, if you look at Marvel, like I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that Kevin Feige is the exact problem, but I know that they need fresh blood either way. Like, does that make sense? Either way, they need fresh blood and they need fresh ideas and better, passionate storytellers, creators, etc. So, I don't know. Food for thought there. Chips and Dip gifted a membership. Thank you so much, brother. Braden says, to be fair, both live-action Gwen Stacy's actresses have had to dye their hair blonde. Sony likes them redheads. Yeah, that's kind of wild. I didn't realize that. So that means that Emma Stone is a natural redhead? That's wild. I didn't know that. Noah says, much love, sir. Question for being able to juggle so much in life and give it 110% in so many aspects. Sad there was no rivals, but you're killing it, bro. Hey, thanks, man. I'm definitely trying. There's a lot going on. Yeah, I'm very, very busy right now, but we're working towards some stuff, and I think good things are coming, and I have an incredible fucking community, dude. You know, you guys are awesome, so I apologize for missing, but we'll be back at it next Wednesday night. We'll play Rivals then, and I'm hoping, I would love to get some of this shit handled so that we could just have more fun and do more like chill streams and hang out beyond the scope of, you know, the show, but I have to make sure everything's taken care of, you know? So it is what it is, but I appreciate the love. Alex says, if Sadie is Toby's Mayday, and if it's Battleworld, maybe a Spider Island-centric film. No. I mean, maybe. Sure, maybe. I don't think so, though. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if Kevin could come up with a really cool way to do it, that could be interesting. You know, at one time, the Beyond the Spider-Verse movies were going to be more connected to Secret Wars, and I've talked to you guys about this before, but this was when a variant of Miguel was going to be working with Kang and potentially be part of a multiversal Illuminati. There's some wild rumors out there about what that was all going to look like. I don't think that's what it is now, but obviously Sony with Spider-Man 4 is heavily incentivized to be a big part of that big story, and then in Secret Wars, the Spider-Boys are going to be a big part of that. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good connection coming, but I don't think they're going to do Spider Island. No. Twist Off, thank you for the 10 spot, brother. Says, hey, Josh, what if after Endgame, Kevin started the X-Men like they did with Iron Man, introducing characters leading to a team-up between the new Avengers and X-Men in the middle of the story? Yeah, it would have been great. Multiple, reasons why they didn't do that. But one thing that I want to say, just as a fan, like a big criticism that I have of Marvel is that I think they piecemeal stuff and they sort of drip dry us. Like, so X-Men, they had the rights, but then what Feige said was, we have a 5-year plan that doesn't involve X-Men. We'll eventually do them, right? Stupid, terrible, ridiculous. Especially because all the stuff you were setting up was like fucking lame, basically. So maybe that's true. Maybe it was these contracts things. You know, when Jeff brought up that Laura Schuler-Donner thing, my mind immediately went to a ton of reports over the past couple of years that suggested that there's contractual reasons why this isn't happening. And I was like, wow, that would be wild, but maybe it's true. Hollywood is weird, right? But I think the real answer, or at least a part of the answer, is that Marvel Studios knew whenever they did X-Men, people would show up, and they really thought they could build out like their own stuff. They really thought they could do all new, all different Marvel, make it actually work, and potentially that would have been great for the entire company and great for Disney, right? And so maybe they had a plan to just do this other stuff, and then they knew they could do X-Men whenever. Do you know what I mean? And that's part of what when I say the Phase 4 mentality, that's what I'm talking about, is I truly think the executives at Marvel Studios took the audience for granted. They thought they could do Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, all of this stuff that's like not anywhere near as popular as the other shit. And Doctor Strange even. Like, Doctor Strange, think about this. Doctor Strange is one of the biggest movies in Phase 4. Almost made $1 billion without China. And it's a Doctor Strange movie. Back in the day, Doctor Strange operated on the level of like an Ant-Man character in comics and in the movies. The first movie. So it's like really weird. I don't know. The point is, what I'm getting at is there is a problem with Marvel Studios, or at least there was a problem, where they piecemeal stuff out. I don't think they have the luxury of that anymore. In fact, I think it's the exact inverse of that situation, where now Marvel Studios has to fucking go for it. That's why Jean Grey should be in Spider-Man 4. Because if it's stupid-ass Firestar, some other character, you're just giving me a little bit of Marvel flavor. You're not fucking going for it. And then you want to save Jean Grey for this, that, second. No, fucking turn the heat up now. Give us the hot shit now. I think that's what they got to do. John Lixer with a 10 spot says, Marvel fans, we know over the past few years we have not delivered to your expectations. I'm here to tell you now that going forward, things are changing. Insert example. That's all Feige has to say. Yes. Now, they've gotten close to admitting that. They've never fully admitted it. I think it's a Disney thing. Deadpool was the closest, and they've used Deadpool to sort of signal that. And I do think that was successful. It made people have empathy for the studio, sort of took the edge off of it. You know, self-referential humor is really good. But that's not how we felt about Captain America. That's not how I'm feeling right now about Daredevil. I don't even know if that's how I feel about Thunderbolts. Why does it feel like the Fantastic Four's the only actual real new movie? Why does it feel like everything else was created 3 years ago? You know what I mean? I'm losing my mind over here. Some of these questions you guys ask, you get me to go down these rabbit holes of thought, and I don't like it. Joshua Campbell says, Emma Stone is not a redhead. Bryce Dallas Howard is a redhead. Oh, okay. There you go. Thanks for the clarification. Javier Mendez, thank you for the cheers. And then he said, I Googled it. Emma says her hair is actually blonde, but she dyed it red for a lot of roles. Oh, Look at you, Joshua, using the Google machine all good. Look at you. Bianca, thank you for the gifted membership, lady. I hope you're doing well. All right, let's hang out in the chat for a little bit here, guys. What is on your mind? Who else wants to fight about stuff and argue about Invincible? Hey, did y'all watch Invincible yet? Throw a 1 into the chat if you watched the finale of Invincible. Yo, your Daredevil take is so off. I'm starting to think you're being Paw Patrol. Numbers aren't bad. They're just not what you expect from a TV show. So what's crazy is, so when a big, like, oh man, when a really big brand makes a big show with a really popular character, and then it underperforms to the tune of not performing to the level of Star Wars shows that are getting canceled, and performing at about half of what a Star Wars show did a couple of years ago, that's bad. That means it's performing bad. I really liked the show, and I've even said that I thought the 3rd episode was like a masterclass. Like, that was brilliant. I'm doing watch parties for the show. I'm talking about the show here, but the show is not doing what it should be doing. And the show is getting a serious lack of trending and social media imprint. Not a lot of people are even paying attention to the show, unfortunately. So I think the show is really underperforming to what the expectations were. And in business, that's like really bad. So just to give another little bit of context here, if you miss your profits by even the smallest amount, a near miss, you usually see Wall Street react in like a really harsh way. So any metric that means you're not on top of your game, killing it and crushing it, is like really bad. So the situation with Daredevil is pretty bad. That's what I would say. Invincible sucks? Hell nah. Invincible's dope. Look at all these ones. That's cool. I hope a lot of you that have not checked it out, I hope you go check it out today. It is legit, man. It is legit. I can't believe Josh hates the show. Jesus. Bro, not saying Hollywood was wrong on how popular DD is, but I'm starting to wonder if Daredevil is more of a niche show. Yeah, I get you, man. I understand. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're all kind of trying to make sense of it. I mean, look, the uncomfortable part for me is I predicted the show to be very successful. I predicted it would do the best numbers on Disney Plus. It's doing so, I don't know if it's doing some of the worst, but I mean, damn, this is not even close to where I thought the show would be operating, right? Is Daredevil a more niche character? I don't think so. There's no way. There's just no way. But was that based on feelings or stats? Which part? What do you mean? Oh, well, no, I mean, look, brother. What are we talking about here? We're talking about a show, a character that had a movie adaptation. When we did our tier list of villains and heroes and shit like that, the whole point of that, right, was I was trying to explain how weak Kang is and why he's like a really low tier villain. But one of the things we brought up in there, and all of you guys that say Goblin is S tier, the reason you said that was because of the movie. So movies are way bigger than any comic book. Even some of the most least viewed movies are probably viewed way more than some of the most popular comic books. It's different. We talk about the comic book industry. It's like 300,000 people to 500,000 people that are reading weekly. It's like 1 million people that read a month, right? The amount of people that watch these superhero shows, these superhero movies, is crazy. I mean, we're talking about 7.5 million people watch that show in 5 days, and we think that's bad. That's to put that in perspective of comic book stuff, it's like you're not even in the same universe, okay? So just the fact that there was a Daredevil movie puts him at a very high profile. On top of that, it was a massive Netflix show. We might not know the full extent of how well that show did, but Netflix was and is the biggest streaming platform on the planet. So, like, there's no way. Like, what evidence? I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't understand why you feel the way you feel. There's a lot of evidence to the contrary, man. Oh, you just want to make sense of it. Yeah, I get that. I want to make sense of it too. I mean, I think there's a lot of little things going into it, but ultimately, Marvel doesn't have the sauce, and a lot of people don't think Marvel has the sauce. So, like, why would people go check out the new Marvel show? Like, The Boy Who Cries Wolf, right? How many Marvel shows get put out that ultimately don't satisfy before fans check out? And the thing is, they kind of came out the gate not satisfied. I know everybody was high on WandaVision. When you really think about WandaVision, man, overrated show. A lot of the setup and mysteries go fucking nowhere. So this whole time we're watching the show, we're so intrigued, and then it just ends, and a lot of the shit didn't matter. Okay? Falcon and Winter Soldier is a fucking abomination of a show. A lot of the Star Wars shows went that way too, and a lot of the Marvel shows, even if they start strong, end up goobly glob. So there's just like, there's how are the average people that watch these things, how are they going to just give the next one a shot? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's the explanation. Like, it's not the show's fault. It's not the character's fault. It's a condemnation on Marvel and their brand. And the really scary part about that is this thing seems good and the character's really popular. So this would suggest that the level of damage done to the Marvel brand is potentially way worse than we thought. Way worse. But we'll see. Rossi says, feels like a huge issue with Marvel and Star Wars is that Cliffhanger Valley is wide for the finales. It doesn't make me want to watch the second season. It just leaves me unfulfilled. Slow drip you were talking about. Yeah, that's fair. There's definitely some of that. And they're not well paced. They're not really well designed. You know? Like, that's what it is, man. Like, they're just... And it's not as simple as, like, just make good shows. Because, frankly, Daredevil Born Again is a good show. I mean, I kind of think it's undeniably good. But the damage may well have already been done. And in order for that show to succeed, like, it's like a lot of people say that Andor deserved a lot more views. And maybe you could say that. You know what I mean? I personally don't like the show, but if you really did, and you thought it was great quality, and you're like, whoa, this is really great television in the Star Wars universe, I don't understand. Well, the explanation is simple. People don't give a fuck about Star Wars. That's what it is. How's that hard to understand? How did we go from, what do we do? Andor season 1, terrible viewership. Then you have, well, you had Ahsoka, right? And Ahsoka actually did really well. And I think that came out after Andor. Yeah, it came out after Andor. But then after Ahsoka, you have Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. Acolyte gets a really good pop and then falls off a cliff. Right? Why did Acolyte get such a good pop? You could make the argument is because Ahsoka was received so well. And you might be like, wait a minute, I thought people didn't like Ahsoka. That was a narrative of like grifters. Look at the numbers. Ahsoka was a big show. Obviously. Right? Now, you might be able to say, like, Daredevil's way better than Ahsoka. Ahsoka did double the numbers. Double the numbers that Daredevil did in 5 days. Double the numbers? That's crazy. Right? But then it might be the case that people were so mad after Acolyte that's why Skeleton Crew gets snubbed. Because, again, I don't like Skeleton Crew, but it's a way better show than a lot of the other stuff that Star Wars had put together, right? Why does that show not get watched? I don't know. Maybe it's because Skeleton Crew made a whole bunch of people really fucking mad. Winning solves a lot of these problems, and the more consistently you can stack wins, the better this is all going to go for you. But it's just the case that we live in that world where Phase 4 happened, Phase 5 is going on right now. Marvel's had a lot of ups and downs, and it is literally to the point where they can make a really good show with a really popular character, and it can underperform. By the way, not to be the total crazy bearer of bad news here, but on its current trajectory, Brave New World will be one of the lowest grossing movies ever created from Marvel Studios. It won't quite be the lowest. It's not a complete and total disaster like the Marvels was, but it is bad. It is like really bad. So we might have to go through a period here, and it's uncomfortable as a Marvel fan, but let's just be real. We might have to go through a period where we have one of the lowest grossing movies, we have one of the lowest viewed shows, and then we have another movie in Thunderbolts that might not do well. I mean, what happens if Thunderbolts does about the same as Brave New World or worse? Oh man, then it's like, what is happening? Like that is not great. You know what I mean? Yeah, they should have canceled their shows. There's a lot of things they could have done. I think the reality is the climb back is going to be difficult. They're very lucky that they have the Russos, that they have all of this crazy stuff with Secret Wars and Doomsday, which I think they've been building for a while. The Battleworld movies, I think, will be super tight. It's so different than stuff they've done before. It's the exact freshness that they need. And so it might be the case that when we get to that shit, yeah, people are going to be pretty excited, and that'll fuel a turnaround. But it's all about what they do with the X-Men after we get out of Secret Wars. That's going to be a huge determining factor. And I think Marvel needs to stop doing all these bullshit shows. I think they need to stop focusing on these bullshit characters. I think they need to stop drip drying us, and they need to go hard and big and fast. That shit would be dope. Kurt L says, lost my job for not responding to Elon's email, and my 401k is in the trash. But at least Invincible was on 3 as peak. Yeah, totally, man. You know what they say? Trade wars are based, making all of the government people retire, and then they don't have a retirement count anymore. Super based and crazy cool. So nothing but good fucking awesome base times over here in the United States of America. Everything's going real fucking good over here. Sorry about the job, but Invincible season 3 will keep you all right. You know what I mean? Joshua says, Josh is cooking today. Ooh, thanks, man. Noah says, all my normie Marvel friends say the shows are more like homework. Agatha and Loki were top shows. Daredevil might be top writing, but not in viewership numbers. Fair. Absolutely fair. That could be a part of it too. All you had to do was reply. Yes, I did. What are you talking about? Oh, the email, you mean? Yeah, you probably should have replied. This is what Americans wanted. Yeah, dude, this is America. This is America. I've been summoned. Oh, what's up, Cool Bear? How you doing, brother? You all right? Basically, all Disney Marvel shows revolve around niche characters. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, look, let me throw a couple ideas at you that would be killer. What if we saw Steve Rogers take the Infinity Stones back? Do you think that show would do well? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Let me think of a couple other examples here. I'm trying to think of like just cool high concept things, right? So like Exiles. Like, okay, so we love Deadpool and Wolverine, right? And we love all those characters. And I know they might not be able to do this because like Secret Wars is coming or whatever, right? But like imagine you get Channing Tatum, Daphne Keane, Wesley Snipes. I mean, for real, what's he doing these days? You know what I mean? Like get those guys together. You don't have to have Deadpool and Wolverine there. You can have those people together, make them do an Exiles show, and they literally go around the multiverse running into crazy variants and having fun. Like that. Would you watch that show? I feel like a lot of people would watch that show. So I just think some of they're just not cooking. And if they think they're cooking, they need Gordon Ramsay. They need Gordon Ramsay to be like, this is shit, Kevin. Tastes like shit. You know? Let's see here. Steven Knight says, I like Marvel to go back to the 90s edge, more color, and darker stories. Specifically, want to see Spider-Man be angrier and more of a smartass. Oh, I like that. That could be fun. I think you might actually get your wish with what they're cooking with Spider-Man, believe it or not. Believe it or not. Twistoff says, swear to God, the suits are only in the film biz to make money, but do all things that don't make money. Unreal. I know. It's wild. It's wild, dude. Like, they claim to be like, we got to make money. And then they get in there and tinker and they fuck it all up. It's crazy. John says, better than being conscripted for the dawn. I mean, fair. That is fair. I guess perspective is good. You know, it could always be worse, but it also feels like some serious cope. But you know what? That's fine. You can cope. I'm not going to be mad. Nerds Engage with a 10 spot says, with Marvel, when something new comes out and we've mined it for potentially the next part of overall MCU lore, we move on quick. Then upon revisit, most are better than remembered. Too much, too fast. That is part of the problem. Yeah. That is certainly part of the problem. Too much, too fast. I agree. I agree with that. Crazy 8 says, you know, they should have made a Secret Invasion show. Man, imagine. That would have been so cool to see. God damn it. If it was actually the high concept Secret Invasion thing, hell yeah, dude. I mean, that would be so cool. Yeah. I don't know, brother. I don't know. I mean, look, at some level, because, you know, I really like Marvel. I've said that often. And I feel like I have to repeat it because some of you guys are like, you're a grifter now. It's like, I'm not a grifter. I'm doing watch parties. I'm doing watch parties for a show that nobody's watching. And I'm a grifter. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, I think at some level, Marvel's probably asking themselves a lot of these same questions too. And they're trying to figure it out too. I mean, dude, they're Marvel fucking Studios. They changed the game. They changed the game. They need to get it figured out. They need to get it sorted. You know, can I throw one idea out there and let's see what you guys think about this, okay? Because I was thinking about this the other day. Now, this is kind of a half-baked idea, so forgive me. But I was thinking about this the other day. You know, phases, I think, are not really working. They're certainly not working the way that they did before. And I was thinking maybe instead of phases, they commit to story arcs and they do maybe a series of movies or potentially combine movies and shows together and tell a full ass story. So what I mean is, like, maybe instead of being like, here's our phase 7 movies, we're going to be like, you know, we're doing something a little bit differently now. And we're going to actually tell a story over 3 movies. So we're going to do an Heir to Apocalypse trilogy. And we're going to do 3 X-Men movies. They're going to tell one massive fucking story that's all about the X-Men and Apocalypse. And then everything within that story and that trilogy of movies is just one cohesive story. And maybe you extend it to like 4 or 5 movies, or maybe it's 3 movies and 2 shows, or 3 movies and 2 seasons of one show or something. But like, they might need to, instead of trying to get the entire cinematic universe to fit together, select some smaller stories and have those stories play out in like a committed schedule, you know, like that. So instead of like, here's phase 4 and movie number 2, it's more like, here's the Heir to the Apocalypse 2nd movie. Here's the Heir to the Apocalypse 3rd movie. Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of had that thought and I was like, that could potentially solve some of the problems. I don't know. What do you think? I think so. No, you could still do phases, but don't focus on the phases anymore. Like, the phase cannot, like, the phases are not actually doing what they used to do. It used to be in phase, the phases felt more like chaptering or voluming the story. And we had a sense of like where we're at, where we're going. now it doesn't serve that function at all. It's more like, what phase are we in? What's going on? You know what I mean? And there's a problem with continuity in Marvel, right? But what you could do if you did this, what you could do is you could be like, okay, this show here is coming out before the end, before this story. So we're watching the Heir to the Apocalypse movies. This new Spider-Man show takes place completely before that. So even if there are other seasons running, you know it's not connecting to Heir to the Apocalypse because that's not happening until after. So it would be like a better way to organize and get people in the mindset of what to expect for the story. Does that make sense? I think it actually makes a lot of sense. And I also think it's so fucking ridiculous that like people like me can come up with these ideas, or like Rob. Like Rob's another great example. Rob comes up with some like really good ideas, and we tend to ask ourselves like, and here goes the fucking hair. It's going crazy. But we tend to ask ourselves like, how can Rob come up with that, but these motherfuckers at Marvel Studios can't come up with it? Right? Like, how can Josh from Den of Nerds just be like, you know what would fix the problem? This. And it's like instantly a better idea than anything they're currently doing. What is the holdup? What the hell? It's weird. Abe says, will Doom/Reed history be used in the MCU like in the comic? I think so, but I'm not sure. I don't have a definitive answer for you on that, but I believe so, yeah. I believe so. Gaia, the key to defeat Doom. I'll burn every Marvel thing I have if they do that. Steve McT says MCU went from art to content. My hope is in Fantastic Four. I don't even agree with that. Sorry, Steve. I don't agree with that. I think Marvel was always pretty good. They were always pretty good at making movies, but the content part of it was always a part of it. It always operated a little bit more like content than films. And that's why so many directors and critics had problems with it. And that's just true. That right there is revisionist history. And the only reason I go so hard on this when I hear this brought up is like a lot of people feel that way, but that is that's not real. It's a Mandela effect. It's like you have nostalgia for what Marvel was, and you just think it was this super artistic, like, nah, bro, like you watch Iron Man 2 recently, you watch Iron Man 3 recently, like that, nah. Like it wasn't that. It was just way better at what it was doing, is the point. Sisyphus levels of cope, maybe. Joshua says, Josh and Rob need to get a job at Marvel. I think we would kill it over there, but I also think there's this weird resistance to it. Like, it's almost like this attitude of like, just because you can get on camera and speak into a mic and make it sound good in front of an audience doesn't mean you actually like have the ideas. It doesn't mean you actually know. And I'm here to tell you, I think it does. I think it does. I think we got the skills. I think we could literally do it. But hey, you know, they have to figure out their own way forward for this. Either way, I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them, man. And a healthy and strong Marvel is good for all nerdy things. It's good for Invincible. Dude, we need a strong Marvel. You need a strong Marvel. So I think I'm just going to continue to root for them. I'm, of course, going to do my thing and give you the straight talk and the commentary. But it's not Jover. They can do this. You know? So I have faith. I have faith that they could turn it around and do it. All right, everybody. Hey, look, that's going to do it for now. Really appreciate it. Good episode as always. I thought this was a really good Q&A section today. So thank you for the thoughtful comments and the good conversation. Really appreciate that. We'll be back at it tomorrow at 11 a.m. And hopefully there's some crazy, nerdy stuff going on in the world. If not, maybe I'll make a story up. Maybe I'll make something up. No, we'll have a good show tomorrow, I'm sure. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for being here. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Leave. Oh man, another happy landing. You know, that was pretty chill. Pretty chill. Lots going on in the world as always. But man, that Invincible, that lifted me, man. I was, you know, I might have even woke up a little down this morning, you know. Maybe I was a little sad. And I was like, all right, well, I'll watch this Invincible. Holy shit! Oh my God! It's incredible. You got to watch it, guys. Seriously, great shit. The highest recommendation I can possibly give. Incredible. Check it out. Check it out. Very good. Yeah, what a way to start the day, huh? All right, everybody. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. We got a lot of stuff. Man, we're cooking some stuff behind the scenes. We are cooking some stuff. I'm excited for the future. So I really appreciate you. Appreciate the support. Remember, open up that third eye and wash out your stinky butt. Oh.